G'day guys, welcome back to the Rugby League Guru podcast. We have got our first TLT for season 2025. We had a couple of teams that dropped last week. We weren't here for it, so our first episode will be here every single week for Team List Tuesday. Very, very exciting. We've obviously got week 2 of the trials. It is starting to heat up a little bit. We've also got the All-Stars game, which is super exciting. We're going to go through all the teams. Obviously, guys, they're extended benches. There's a lot to take in. We sort of did all of our notes on each team, and we completely forgot the players were missing to the All-Stars. So we'll sort of go through that as we go. These teams are obviously not concrete. They are just trials, guys. We 100% get that. But I think there are situations where you can potentially read into things. We'll talk about it. But once again, they are just trials, guys. Let's kick off with the All-Stars game, the most important game that is on this weekend. That's on Saturday night at 8:10. Very, very exciting. Let's have a look at the Indigenous All-Stars. They're 1-17, plus their extended bench they've named. At fullback, Hamiso. On the wings, Ty Munro and Calm Piera. In the centres, we've got Jack White and Brian Kelly. Jaden Campbell will line up at 5'8". Peru from the Cronulla Sharks will line up in jersey 7. You saw him last weekend for the Sharkies. Shaq Mitchell and Josh Kerr, the front row. Connor Watson in jersey 9. The edges, Dylan Lucas and Josh Curran moving back to the edge. And Peru, the other brother, in jersey 13. One that I really, really like. One to keep an eye on in this game. On the bench, Talos Duncan, Brent Naden, Bud Sullivan and Jacob Arlek. Their extended bench, a couple of young guys I think you should keep an eye on. Ethan Roberts, obviously a young kid coming through the Roosters, plays as an edge back rower, very handy. Blake Steep, jersey 19. Every year in this game, there's one player that sort of jumps out of the ground and really impresses. I think if he can get decent minutes, I think it'll be Blake Steep in this game at the Roosters. I think he can be a future leader at that club. I think he's destined for rep football. So Blake Steep in 19 and Jacob Skies in jersey 20 as well, who can play. Let's have a look at the Māori side. We have got Kalen Ponga lining up at fullback. Great to see him featuring in this one. Will Warbrick and Jesse Arthurs out on the stings. Gagai and Hiroti lining up in the centres. 5'8" will be Chance Nickel Clockstad. Halfback will be Cody Nikarima. In the front row, Royce Hunt. Keen to see how he goes. Starting in the front row, I think that will be his spot for the Tigers this year. He'll be joined by James Fisher-Harris. JMK in jersey 9. Jordan Ricky and Jacob Laban from the New Zealand Warriors on the edges. And Leo Thompson in jersey 13. Their bench, Kano Kini, Jaz Tavanga, Zach Docker-Clay and Curtis Morin. Great to see ZDC getting another run. A talented kid. Kano Kini, jersey 14. Very keen to see how he goes in this one. They're extended Willison, Porter and Jesse McLean. So that is your All-Stars game. We will talk about that a little bit more throughout the week, guys, but they are the team list as they stand right now. All right, let's get stuck into the trials this weekend and the team list and everything that's going on. So we kick off this week on Thursday night, 7:50 p.m, coming to you from the nation's capital. We've got the Canberra Raiders taking on the Sharkies. These two teams going to Vegas very, very soon. Let's go through the Raiders. Some notable things from this side. Tamale, he's been named on the wing. Obviously no Tapane, no Corey Horsburgh, no Zach Hosking. Zach Hosking, I think he's racing the clock to play in Vegas. Corey Horsburgh not named in this one. I'm not quite sure why, but I saw Corey Horsburgh last week in person. He is looking unreal. Nicholson, obviously with no Hosking, he will line up on the edge. So that is your Raiders side as it stands. The notable things for the Sharkies, no Katoa on the wing. Stone Street in that spot. Not sure if he picked up an injury or something over the weekend, but he's not in the squad at all. So Stone Street steps in there. Hopefully we get more information. Hines named in the 7. Trindle named in the 6 jersey, but not too much to read into when it comes to those two team lists there. The Sharkies have obviously got Raymond and Itero in the centres. It's pretty much what I think their Vegas side will be. You've got Korfusi, AFB, Teague Wilton. I guess you get to see AFB for the first time, which is exciting. Their bench, Atkinson, Talakai, Hamlin Wale and Tommy Hazelden. So I think that'll pretty much be the side that the Sharkies go to Vegas for. So a good chance to see them pretty much close to full strength. The Raiders, on the other hand, still a number of guys pretty close to their full strength side. You've obviously got, your Savages, KO Weekses and whatnot. It's just interesting. Obviously, Tapane's not playing, and I'm not quite sure why Corey Horsburgh hasn't been named. So we'll keep an eye on that situation. But yeah, outside of that, it is a pretty full strength side. So that should be a decent trial for those two teams. Let's move to Friday night. We have got the Newcastle Knights taking on the Eels. This one's at 6 p.m. coming to you from Newcastle. We'll just go through the Newcastle Knights side essentially. A couple of guys that are relevant, a couple that aren't. Interesting to see Will Price playing fullback. Obviously, Kalen Ponga is out of this one, playing in the All-Stars, so Will Price gets a shot. James Schiller on one wing. I think he's a guy to keep an eye on. Greg Marshy's on the other side. Fletcher Sharp is lining up at 5'8". Interestingly enough, Jack Cogger will be his halves partner there. You've got Brodie Jones and Jack Hetherington in the front row, Jaden Brayley at 9, Thomas Cant on one edge, and Kai Pearce-Paul on the other side. Tyson Frizzell, great to see, named as captain, but also in the lock forward jersey. So I've been hoping and praying that Frizzell would move into the middle for the last few years. Might just have my wish here. Obviously, Dylan Lucas is playing in the All-Stars, so he'll come back in. I think he'll probably take that edge off Thomas Cant. Tyson Gamble in jersey 14. Once again, all the talk this preseason, Gamble is leading the race to be in the halves with Fletcher Sharp. He's now on the bench. Jacko Hastings is there as well. Read into that what you will. One guy just to keep an eye on for you guys, jersey 19 is Connor Vitano. I think he is a genuine star of the future, one to keep an eye on. And Matty Arthur is also coming off the bench in jersey 18. And Cody Hopwood in jersey 25, another one that I think could be pretty relevant. We also get our first look at Tyrone Thompson, obviously Leo Thompson's brother. He will feature in jersey 26. So a plethora to watch in that Newcastle Knights team. For the Eels, we get our first look at Isaiah Iongi as a Parramatta Eel. Keen to watch him go round. Dill Brown will line up at 5'8" with Volkman next to him in the 7. Brendan Hands will line up in jersey 9. Katoga, who comes over from the Canterbury Bulldogs, a really good signing. He lines up on one edge. And Kelma Tuolangi, keen to see which edge he's on. I'm hearing it'll be on the right, so we'll keep an eye on that. And Charlie Geimer, kid of the future, in jersey 13. Bryce Cartwright on the bench, so not starting in this one, potentially a little bit out of favour. Guys that I think are worth keeping an eye on in this one, jersey 19, Riley Smith. If you listen to the Guru podcast, I've been talking about Riley for quite some time. I think he's still got a future in our game. He's absolutely been smashing all their fitness and everything. I think that he's on a training trial at the moment with a good trial here. I think, one, he could get into their top 30 and become available very quickly. And two, I think he could become very relevant in that side. I don't think anyone overly owns that hooker jersey. So opportunity is begging there. All right, Friday, 8 p.m, the late game. We've got the Cowboys and the Dolphins going ahead. This one's coming to you from Barlow Park in Cairns. The Cowboys side, look, it's a pretty typical trial team. I think it's more so about who hasn't been named rather than who has been named. One that is there, Robert Derby. Maybe they're just getting minutes into him and whatnot. We'll see how it plays out, but one to watch there, Robert Derby. Obviously, the halves, they've got Sublow and Hertigan. So I don't think, obviously, Tom Duffy hasn't been named in this one. I was hoping he would be. He hasn't. But that probably says to me that he is in line for trial number 2, the more important one. Tom McKaylee and Cohen Hess will line up in the front row. Very keen to see how both of those look from a Supercoach point of view. And Kai O'Donnell named on the edge as well. A kid that I really liked coming through the juniors, went over to the Super League. He's now returned. I'll be keeping an eye on him. Absolutely love jersey 19. They've got Braden Burns. Now they've got Raiden Burns, who sounds like someone's dressing up as Braden Burns on the weekend. So one to keep an eye on there. Let's move to the Dolphins. We mentioned the Roo Crew a couple of weeks ago. Kurt Donahoe has been lining up at fullback and spending some reps there. He is playing there in this game, so I'm keen to see how he goes in that position. A little CBA to watch. Tavita Nafuhu. Apologies if I've got that pronunciation wrong. He is lining up in the jersey 3. I think there's every chance he shifts to fullback at some point throughout this game. Very big raps on him coming out of the Dolphins this preseason. And Junior Tupu, we get our first look at him as a Dolphin in jersey 5. Averillo will line up at 6. Sean O'Sullivan at 7. I do believe that round 1 we'll see Jake Averillo lining up at 5'8". So a little spot to watch there. Forward pack, a lot of young guys getting a feature here. Not too much that jumps out of the ground for me from the rest of that Dolphins side. Let's have a look at the Saturday game. So we kick off at 1:30. We've got the Warriors taking on the Melbourne Storm. That's coming to you from Hamilton. For the New Zealand Warriors, Tane Topiki lines up at fullback. Obviously, Chans is playing in the All-Stars. Roger Tuivasa-Sheck, fingers crossed he gets to feature in this one. We get our first look at him as a winger. Look, guys, this is pretty much close to a full-strength sort of side for the Warriors. There are a couple of guys missing here and there, you know, your Mitch Barnetts, your Fisher Harris. But I think we get a pretty good look at what this side will probably look like to start the season. Obviously, Roger on the wing got Leotawa in the centres. Ed Cossey gets another opportunity to bounce back from last week. The halves, Luke Metcalf and Tamare Martin, they've named them in their 2 trials. I would safely assume that will be their halves combination for Las Vegas. Wade Egan will line up in jersey 9 as the skipper. Jackson Ford in the front row with Bontiao Foa. One that I'm interested in seeing, Vaimalga, obviously previously Sifakula last season. He lines up on the edge, so I'm keen to see how he goes. I don't think he'll land there round 1. I think Laban's more likely to get it over him, but I think he's a kid with a big future. Aaron Clark in the 13, Walker in the 14 again. Haliasima named on the bench in jersey 16. Keen to see him go around. And Sam Healy in jersey 18. I thought he was really impressive last week. Really liked him leaving the Sharkies when he signed there last year, so one to watch there. Geronimo Doyle, another talented guy in jersey 23. Kalani Going, 25. One to watch there as well. So a few fellas to watch from the New Zealand Warriors, who I think will be rotating a lot of players in the second half. For the Melbourne Storm, Sua lines up at fullback. Always good to see him go around. A winger that I wanted to keep an eye on is Setu Tu, who's obviously signed with the Brisbane Tigers this year, so he's in the Melbourne Storm system. One to watch. Wishy at 6. Keegan Russell-Smith, who I've always liked at halfback. We get our first look at Stefano lining up in the front row in purple. He will be joined by grand final player Lazarus Valipu. So big season for both of those two. Joe Chan lines up on the edge. I've heard really good things coming out of Melbourne Storm camp about Joe Chan this season and how he's training, so one to keep an eye on there. Nathaniel Roach still getting around on the bench there. Morgan Harper popping up for the Melbourne Storm as well on their bench. Outside of that, not too many other guys to note for me as it stands. So those two sides, the New Zealand Warriors and the Melbourne Storm, they will kick off your Saturday of footy. Followed up by the South Sydney Rabbitohs and the Manly Seagulls at 3:30 p.m. coming to you from Gosford. For the Bunnies, Jai Gray at fullback. Isaiah Tass, interestingly enough, named in the centres. Maybe that's a sign of Campbell Graham could miss the first game or two potentially. I thought Tass would be on the wing, and I think that if you've got a trial to play him, you would probably play him there, but we'll see. It might just swap throughout the game and whatnot. Lewis Dodd named at halfback. Jamie Humphries at 5'8". I think that all but locks Lewis Dodd into the halfback spot. I think Humphries is going to have to do something pretty special in the next 2 weeks to convince Wayne to swap him. So I think, as we all expected, Dodd will get first dibs there. Kepe and Mawali in the front row. Mamazelis named at 9. Lachlan Hubner coming down from the Dolphins gets an opportunity in jersey 13. They might be a couple of middles short to start the season. Hubner is fit as a fiddle, gets through a lot of work. Wayne has brought him down with him. A very, very good sign there. So just keep an eye on Lachlan Hubner in jersey 13. Outside of that, Liam LeBlanc on the bench as well. Jersey 18, I really like him. Matty Humphries, wow. He's come from SG Ball. Matty Humphries to get an opportunity in this game. Has looked really good in the SG Ball so far over the first 2 weeks. I didn't expect his name to be there, so I'm keen to see how he goes in that one. Outside of that, Bailey Biondi Odo also named on the bench there. If people didn't realise, he has done the preseason with South Sydney. They are pretty stacked in the positions he plays, but a talented guy there as well. The Manly Seagulls, look, I think once again, guys, this is more so about who isn't named. Lehigh Opawade is at fullback. Don't know if that means maybe there's a chance that he's going to be the unlucky man when it comes to picking their backline. We will see. Takiaho returns for his first NRL game in a few years, or his first trial in the front row with Toff Sipley, who's the skipper. You'll love to see that. We spent a golf day with Toff at the end of last year, and he was one of the funniest fuckers I've ever met. Jake Simpkin lines up in jersey 9, but there is obviously, and Gordon Chancum Tong on the bench, but no sign of Jazz Tavanga there, who it sounds like he's going to start the season in the 9. So once again, guys, I think the Manly side is more so about who isn't there, but it is interesting to see Taniela Paseka named on the bench. Bit of a weird one there. I wonder if that's potentially a sign that he could be on the outer. Once again, guys, could just be overreading it. Maybe they're just giving him some minutes there, coming back for an injury. Could be 1,000 reasons, but worth noting that Taniela Paseka is on the bench there for the Seagulls. Let's have a look at so then after that, we've obviously got the All-Stars game. We went through that for you guys already. Let's have a look at Sunday afternoon. 3:30 p.m. coming to you from Toowoomba. We've got the Brisbane Broncos taking on the Gold Coast Titans. For the Broncos, Deloise Hoyto named in the centres, Dean Mariner named on the wing. So some interesting selections there. Billy Walters at 5'8". I think there's a very good chance he starts the NRL season there if Adam Reynolds is to be ruled out. You've got Corey Jensen starting in the front row with Takura. Tyson Smoothie in jersey 9. Interesting here on the edge, Jack Godds and Brendan Pereira. Obviously, Jordan Ricky is playing All-Stars. So there's rumours around Jack Goz potentially starting on the left edge. Very interesting. I'm keen to see when they run out which side he is on. If Jack Goz is on the left, potentially that could be a sign that Madge is looking to start with him over Pereira. I kind of think it's going to be a wake-up call for Pereira. I think this is what Madge is trying to do, but we'll see how it plays out. We get our first look this year at Kobe Hetherington in jersey 13 as well. Outside of that, guys, nothing else. Kobe Black in jersey 17. Keen to see how he goes. But outside of that, not too much to touch on with that Broncos lineup. For the Titans, they have got Philip Sami lining up in the centres with Jojo Fafita. We've got AJ Brimson lining up at 5'8" with Kieran Foran in jersey 7. Kieran Foran, the captain, apparently not going to make the starting 13 for the Titans in round 1, which is wild to me, but each to their own. AJ Brimson at 5'8". You would have to assume that maybe means Jaden Campbell's playing halfback. We'll have to wait and see. The forward pack is pretty much full strength here. Mo Fodawaker and Jermaine Jolliffe, Sam Verrills in the 9, Dave Fafita, Bo Fermor and Chris Randall in jersey 13. Give or take a Regan, Campbell-Gillard and a Tino. It is a pretty strong Titans forward pack there. Their bench features guys like Tommy Weaver, Haas, Pahulu, Zane Harrison, a young guy that I really like. Think he's got a big future. So, yeah, that is your Titan side. Cooper Bye, that I know people are high on as well. So that's your Titan side to take on the Broncos at 3:30 on Sunday. Let's move to the 5:30 game, Sunday Arvo, the first of a doubleheader. The Canterbury Bulldogs taking on the West Tigers from Netstrata Jubilee. We have got, for the Doggies, it's once again a case of, I think, who hasn't been named. So Blake Wilson has been named. I would assume that means that Montoya has probably won that spot at the moment. Other guys that feature in this side, Jonathan Sewer, a young guy that's got ability. Drew Hutchinson lines up at 5'8". Bailey Hayward lines up in the 9. Sam Hughes in the front row there. Whether that means he's on the sort of outside or whether they're just trying to get minutes into him, we'll wait and see. Outside of that, Jamin Salmon in the 13. Tom Monet, who returns from the Super League in 15. He'll come off the bench. Some young guys on the extended to watch. Cassius Tia was at the Roosters, went over to the Bulldogs a couple of years ago. Very talented guy, did very well in the Jersey Flag last year. Cooper Toys, another very talented kid who's left the Roosters with Cass and gone to the Bulldogs. And of course, Zion as well gets his first opportunity in Bulldogs colours. I'll be watching him very, very closely. For the Tigers, Gerard Skelton makes his first appearance in Tigers colours on the wing. Keen to see how he goes. Galvin will line up at 5'8" with Latu Fainu in jersey 7. Talon Silva will be the 9 and the skipper of this side. Sione Fainu on one edge. Justin Matamua in jersey 13. You got Kit La Lily coming off the bench. Outside of that, no one really jumping out at me from the extended bench for the Tigers there. The last game of the week, guys, we have got the Dragons taking on the Roosters, the second game of the doubleheader at Netstrata Jubilee. For the Dragons, pretty close to a full-strength side. So Clint Gutherson at fullback. You've got Finau and Matty Fangai on the wings. Obviously, you've got Tui Pelotu, who I think will take one of those spots, who hasn't been named. You've also got Tyrell Sloan, who hasn't been named. He's playing for the All-Stars. I believe he's in that squad. But yeah, I don't think those will be the wingers, but Sully and Val Holmes in the centres. Very keen to see which sides they line up on. I think they'll go Val on the left, Sully on the right, but we will see. Flano at 6, Ilias at 7. Toby Couchman named to start in the front row, which I'm keen to see how he goes. Damien Cook at 9. Emre Gula, new arrival at the club last week, in the front row. Leilua and Sua on the edges. JDB in jersey 13. The bench, Jacob Little, Raymond Faitala-Mariner, Tommy Eisenhuth and Harm Sele. So no huge shocks there with the Dragons. You've got Pacifici Tonga, the big front rower that we're keen to see. He's been named on the extended bench. You've also got Ravalawa there as well. So maybe maybe there is something to read into with those wingers that have been named. Latu, jersey 27 is another one that I like as well that's worth watching in this game. All right, let's have a look at the Sydney Roosters for this game. The centres, Marky Mark and Rabbitohs. No sign of Billy Smith. Not reading into it too much, but for a lot of you, it will be your first opportunity to watch Rabbitohs, so watch him go. Fingers crossed he can get through this one injury-free. Very talented young guy with a big future. Sandon Smith and Chad at 6 and 7, so you'll get to see how they will line up. Also worth watching when they score their first try. Who picks up the kicking tee? I assume it will be Sandon Smith. White and Lenu start in the front row. Benaya actually starts in jersey 9. A kid that I've watched a lot come through the grades. A very, very good fellow. Played with my brother a little bit growing up. Talented kid at 9. One to keep an eye on. Nat Butcher and Victor Radley on the edges. And Siwa Wong in jersey 13. So fuck knows what Robbo's up to now. Whether this changes, over the next few weeks, we'll wait and see. But Radley named on the edge, Wong in jersey 13. A very interesting watch there, and sounds like my Supercoach draft day could be ruined by that. Fekete coming off the bench in jersey 14. Young guy. Very explosive, got one of the best defensive techniques I have seen. Keep an eye on Fekete, jersey 14. He could explode. The Va'a brothers also on the bench. Other guys there, Tyler Moriarty, who could become relevant if the Roosters want to run with another hooker in this squad. But jersey 21 is Jake Elliott, a guy that has risen through the grades very quickly. Big body, 5'8", played New South Wales Cup the back end of last year, did really well. So keep an eye on Jake Elliott there. Tyrese Tate, another one in jersey 25 that I know they hold in high regard at the moment. Guys, that is your team list for Trials Week 2, the pre-season challenge. Very, very exciting. The NRL season is not too far away. Plenty of footy coming your way this weekend. And, of course, on Saturday night, the All-Stars. Cannot wait for that. Footy has finally arrived back.